Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Coach Ahmed Shrim's Academy, and today I got Kevin with me. He's one of my top rated fighters in the gym, and he's going to help me demonstrate some common mistakes you guys do or beginners do with their boxer stance and footwork. We're going to focus on the footwork, but let's talk about the boxer stance for a little bit, right? There's two styles of boxing stance I like, which is either side stance, the traditional, more giving your opponent a side stance, right? Which makes you very small target. Your opponent's going to have a hard time reaching certain areas. Or the brawler stance, which is a little bit squared up, kind of like Mike Tyson, Ricky Hatton, just to name a few. But we prefer the side stance more if you like to move a lot, if you have good head movement, good defensive technique, and you like to throw counters. So this is a better stance. The first mistake people do when they stand, when they hold their boxer stance, now forget about up here, we're going to talk just about the feet, is having too wide of a stance, right? Like Kevin will be exaggerating to demonstrate what I mean by that, but having too much of a distance between your feet is going to limit your ability to move around. You won't be able to move fast because obviously you don't have a point of balance on one of the foot, right? On one of the feet. The other one is having your feet a little bit too narrow, right? Close to each other, even at a side stance, stand sideways. Yep. Too narrow to each other is going to also take away from your good balance and good movement. So how do you find the right balance, right? You want to keep on practicing and trying different distances between your feet until you find the right one that help you move around without losing your balance, right? So it takes time, it takes practice, but you have to try and work with the mirror as well to see how your feet look. Now, when it comes to footwork, right? So the first and most common mistake I see boxers, beginner boxers do when they walk is they don't know which foot to start with. So if they're going forward, they start with the back foot and then they drag the lead foot. That's terrible because the last thing you want is to bring your back foot towards your lead foot, right? And the opposite is true. If they're going backward, they're going to take the lead foot first, the lead foot first, sorry, and then go back. I don't want to confuse you with lead and back. This is the front foot, right? When you're standing like Kevin like that, this is your front foot, back foot, lead foot, back foot, right? Going forward, you should always start with the lead foot. Small step, right? Take a little step, and you want to drag your back foot the same distance. You don't want to end up taking a small step with the lead foot and a big step with the back foot, which results in you having a narrow stance like that, right? Here is a simple philosophy or simple direction. If you get this, it'll make life so much easier for you. Always start with the foot closest to the direction you're traveling to, right? So if you're going forward, which foot is closer to forward is your forward foot. You start with that, and you want to try to drag the back foot the same distance you move the lead foot. And the opposite is true. If you're traveling backward, you always start with the back foot first, and then you drag your lead foot. And this is probably one of the hardest part to develop early on, is how much distance traveling between the feet, right? People do this all the time. I see it all the time, where you take, let's say, 3-4 inches step with the lead foot, but then 7-8 inches with the back foot. You know, and you always end up in this. The only way to fix that is shadow in front of the mirror. Say it, shadow in front of the mirror. Practice in front of the mirror. See what your form looks like. Imagining it is not going to help. The second common mistake is stepping to the left with the right foot, right? And that results in you crossing feet. And people come to me and they say, oh, I was watching these pro fighters doing it, and you know, they walk like that. Well, they walk wrong. All right, so what, they're pro fighters? It doesn't mean that pro fighters don't make mistakes. They make mistakes, right? If I'm stepping to the left, I'm going to take a step with the left foot first and drag the right foot the same distance. Again, remember, which foot is closer to the direction I'm traveling to? If I'm going to the right foot is closer. I start with it, and then I drag the left foot with it. The idea is you always want to end up in your boxer stance. You don't want to end up too wide. You don't want to end up too narrow. So left, you start with left. Right, you start with right. Forward, you start with forward. Back, you start with back. And you always end up in this stance, right? So a couple of pointers you don't want to end up doing. You don't want to stand with your feet too close. You don't want to have too wide. You don't want to stand square. And you don't want to stand two side stands, right? Remember that. Now, other common mistakes that people do when they take footwork, let's go back to your side stance a little bit, yep, is that their back foot is flat-footed and their knees are locked. They lock their knees like that. Locking your knees in your boxer stance is not going to help you move good enough or fast enough, because in order for us to move, we have to bend the knee first and then move. You always want to be with your knees loaded, right? So loosen your knees. You don't want to be squatting. You just want to have loose knees, right? Just a little bit of loose knees, and you want to be ready to move. Your back foot should work like a rudder on a boat, right? If you could have good, well balance and your right heel a little bit off the ground, right, while you still balance on both feet, that'll be ideal, because then you can pivot and move comfortably between moves, right? So this is the only part I want to cover today with footwork and how to fix common mistakes you do. All right, practice with mirror again, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for watching.